The bad play-in games were yesterday, known as the Eastern Conference. The good ones should be tonight, we hope, although Memphis and San Antonio, nobody cares about either. It's really the late one that we got to stay up for, and Jay Fitz is here to kind of break it down for us. You know, the Celtics and the Wizards we thought was going to be a really good one. Didn't really live up to it. Why not? I said that neither team wanted to play Brooklyn. They'd rather just roll the dice and try to play the Sixers by winning the next game. Would you say that a team like Washington just said, we don't really care if we win this game or not. We'll try again on Thursday so we don't have to play Brooklyn? Or is that just way too tinfoil cap?
Well, look, I'd say that's more possible for Washington than it is for Boston, right? Because Boston has this narrative around they're underachieving this year. Washington's playing with house money, a team we all gave up on that then got hot at the right time. But, yeah, I mean, we saw it with the Clippers. And frankly, you know, we've talked to a few people on Spain and Fitz around the league about the Clippers' strategy of avoiding the Lakers. And they've said, hey, it's a good strategy. It's the right thing to do in this situation. Play to the matchup that you want. So if you are looking at it saying, hey, I know that I can lose this game and still get in, why not play to the matchup that you think you need out of it? So I don't think it's tin hat at all. It makes a lot of sense from a basketball standpoint to put yourself in the right situation.
You know, I brought that up yesterday here, and then I had people texting me like, hey, I thought you were an idiot at first, and now it looks like Washington really doesn't want to win this game. So, Jay, if you're Philadelphia, Indiana scored 144. They just beat you 2 weeks ago. Now, the Sixers didn't have Joel Embiid in that game. Or you got Beal and Westbrook, and they've played really good down the stretch. Which team has a better shot of knocking the Sixers off, if any shot at all?
I don't think either team has any shot at all, but I will say this. Whatever success Indiana had, I crumple up and I throw away like used toilet paper in this matchup because it's not the playoffs, and we know how different the playoffs are. Philly are one of the few teams that I think not only has played some defense, but also has a next level of defense they can offer out. When I get to playoff basketball, the thing that scares me are stars that can go off. And frankly, Washington has more stars that can go off. So that becomes a little bit more of a challenge. But this, to me, this series, this first round series for Philly is just a warm-up series. You're just getting your legs under you. You're getting ready because this Philly team looks to me like they're positioned to go on a nice run. And everybody's so Brooklyn obsessed, they just don't want to talk about it, which is fine. After years of having so much Philly hype, like live under the radar. Let's see where that goes for this team. But I think, frankly, Philly's in a great position coming into this playoff.
Yeah, Jay Fitz is with us, ESPN Radio, Spain and Fitz, weeknights here on 97.3 ESPN. Yeah, all right. The Sixers' path, to me, that's a game changer. Because if the Sixers are 2 or 3, they got no shot. They're not beating Milwaukee and the Nets, but they could beat one. If in a 7-gamer, I think they can ratchet up for a 7-gamer and beat one of them. So why their path is so important to their success here, it's monumental.
Yeah, well, because we're going to get a Milwaukee-Brooklyn series that is going to be great. And there is so much pressure on Milwaukee right now. Has Coach Bud done enough in the way he's changed the offense for Milwaukee? Can they get enough done with Drew Holiday, who's just been a delight of a signing right for Milwaukee? Like, we can look at Milwaukee and say, okay, they're using Giannis in the post more. Like, they're doing a lot of things differently. This is not the same Bucks team we saw last year. But that being said, this is a Bucks team with the weight of the world on their shoulders to get something done. And then you've got a Brooklyn team that's just all stars. So those two are going to get through a knockdown drag-out. I think that has the shot to be the best series we see through all of the playoffs in either conference. And then you come hobbling out of that series, and guess what? Now you get to play a physical Philly team that can take it to you. You're going to have another layer to get to, and I just don't know that a lot of teams will have that. The matchup favors Philly to go to the finals just because I believe we're going to see Brooklyn and Milwaukee beat the junk out of each other.
Yeah, now I'll have Tim Legler tonight at 5 o'clock. I know he likes Miami in that series. I mean, he thinks the Bucks – now, it's weird because all season it felt like the Bucks have kind of been under the radar after they were the 60-win team, and everybody was like, I like that, and then they get matched up with Miami. I mean, some of these first-round matchups, that one, if you're Milwaukee, it's like, come on, this is really the one that we got stuck with?
Yeah, but I was also surprised Milwaukee didn't duck from it. They didn't tank down the stretch. They didn't try and find
their
lost
way
to the
Spurs
into a different seeding.
That Spurs loss killed them.
Yeah, 1,000%. You know, so I'm looking at this Milwaukee team saying whatever we saw in the past is to some level not relevant this year. Because what did we see in past years? Giannis tries to do too much. Giannis doesn't have enough help. He's not being used in a way that seems at all like it's sustainable through a series. If you watch this year, they weren't doing that with him. So I'm looking at this total different version of the Bucks saying, hey, they're built right now. We love Miami because of what they did in the playoffs last year, and we don't love Milwaukee because of what they did in the playoffs last year. And I, for one, don't. I'm not going to value playoffs in a bubble above what we just saw on a marathon season after a short turnaround for these teams. Like, I think this year's regular season has true meaning for once, far more than what we saw in a bubble last year in a weird year.
And by the way, this is a revenge series for the Bucks. They got knocked out by the Heat last year. Jason Fitz, Spain and Fitz here on 97.3 ESPN, weeknights at 7 o'clock. All right, so Lakers-Warriors. I mean, the NBA is getting it in a one game. I'm sure they would love for this to have been, a 1 versus 8 or a 2 versus 7. They're getting it as a 7 versus 8 here, but this is where the play-in became a win for them. I don't know that I love this play-in. We'll get to that in a minute, but is this an epic matchup here that is a must-watch, or is this one going to be like the other two last night and kind of be a letdown?
Look, I'm not sure. I think it's going to be a great game. But I also don't remember the last time I got this many texts in one day saying, where are you watching? What's the plan? Like, what's going on tonight? Everybody's vaccinated. People are feeling a little froggy. Right? So now it's like, where are we going now? How are we watching this game? For a play-in game for two teams that would look in the mirror and tell you this was a disappointing season. Like, and we understand why. I understand that injury played to both of them, a reason why this was the year it was. But it's a twisted logic if everyone says that this is why the play-in is great, because your point earlier was a valid one. Like, those games last night were not particularly good. The other game tonight, nobody really, like, is anybody really going to be doing cartwheels to see the Grizzlies advance into this thing? Like, no. I love John Morant, and I want to see a young Grizzlies team get a little experience, but that's not the reason the play-in's good. The play-in's good because the NBA got lucky, and two of the biggest brands that are heroes and villains all at once got into the thing in the Warriors and the Lakers.
All right, I want you to play TV executive for me, all right? So if the games on Sunday are the same as Saturday, 2, 4:30, 8, and 10:30, you got a lot of interesting scenarios here. You got the Knicks in the playoffs for the first time in 7 years. You got the Lakers, and you got the Warriors, and you got Philadelphia as the 1 seed. Now, Philly-Boston would have made it interesting for the execs, but the two Western opponents, Utah and Phoenix, are not as high profile. So, but you got to go Lakers, right? So they got a 2, a 4:30, an 8, and a 10:30. I would imagine the Lakers are getting that 8 o'clock Sunday night game, right?
Yeah.
You giving that to the Lakers, or you giving that to the Lakers and either Utah or Phoenix, or the Knicks and Atlanta?
I'm putting Knicks Atlanta in that second slot of the day. So the mid-afternoon slot that lets them get both coasts, because it's the Knicks, right? And look, I think the Knicks thing is so overhyped right now. Like, here's what we saw. A team with no expectations. It turned out to be pretty good. Like, I wish we could let it be that simple, but the Knicks are back. Like, back to what? And what sustainably? Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Do we look at the Knicks and feel like they're on the same trajectory, not just this year, but in the next couple of years, to be better than Brooklyn, Philly, or Milwaukee? My answer is no.
Well,
so,
all right. Let me ask you this, though. This is the first time they've been relevant in 7 years. Can they finally get a free agent to sign? Because they haven't been able to get a free agent to go there because they suck so bad. But now they've made the playoff. They're the 4 seed. Does a free agent finally say, all right, you've become respectable, I will now think about you?
Maybe. Yeah, I'll give you a maybe on that. But would that free agent be willing to go there above going to any of the other major? Like, there are just so many other markets right now that are going to always be more viable. Like, the Lakers will always find creative ways to get guys signed. The Clippers have proven that they're willing to spend the money to get Kawhi and Paul George. We just forget about Kawhi and PG being in the other LA team, right? And then Brooklyn has spent all of this money on all these superstars. Do we believe, and I know that it's tricky for the Celtics, they don't have an easy workaround to a lot of what they've dug themselves into, but do we believe the Celtics as a brand aren't still better than the Knicks as a brand? I don't. So, like, this is a great moment for the Knicks, but to be better than the other teams in the East, they're really going to have to build on something. Well, we thought
that being said, though, if the executives don't think they're going to get the Knicks again, you better take advantage of them while you got them, right?
Yeah, 1,000. Look, the Knicks are going to get all the hype they can possibly get. And I really like their story. I would put the Knicks in that second slot because it serves both the West and East Coast for a national brand, right? And so the first slot goes to Philly. The second slot goes to the Knicks. The third slot goes to the Lakers. And the last spot goes to whatever West Coast game nobody really cares about. Like, let's be real. The worst case scenario for the NBA is that the Lakers and the Warriors somehow get bounced in this process, and we end up having to find a bunch of people that are NBA analysts that haven't watched enough of Phoenix, Utah, or Denver suddenly come out of the woodwork and say, "I've been telling you about this team all." No, it's not true. So that's the worst case scenario for the league.
Yeah, so I'm imagining, because I got stuff I got to do on Sunday, so I'm trying to figure out when that Sixer game is going to be, and I'm feeling they're going to get the crap. They're the 1 seed. You get the 8. And now you're getting either Indiana, which is a terrible market. Washington's a decent market, but I feel like Philly, New York, L.A., and the Warriors, you're getting the worst of that group. We always come out last. We always get the bottom of the barrel, man.
You're not wrong. But wait, the one thing that changes that, I don't know, raising a banner, right? Like there's this spot where if I'm Philly and I'm Milwaukee, those are the two teams, I think, in the entire playoff system, Philly and Milwaukee, out of both conferences, are the two teams that can just sit back, put their feet up, and say, "All right, y'all, just keep hammering home every other brand," because those two teams are in a good situation to really make some noise. And by the way, if the Lakers aren't healthy, and there's no indication that will give us that they are going to be healthy, either of those teams from the East can and would beat the Lakers, in my mind, in a 7-game series for the final. So,
all right, everybody thinks the Lakers are the favorite in the West. They might not even get into the damn playoffs, yet they're still the favorite. Like, if you want to bet them right now, one of my great sponsors is Prop Swap. I don't know if you've ever heard of these guys, but you can buy the ticket now and then sell it later on. I could buy the Lakers ticket right now. They might not even make the playoffs, and I could sell that, and someone's stuck with that ticket, and I make all the money. There, I prop swapped my ticket. The Lakers don't get in. But everybody thinks the Lakers are the favorite. But what other Western Conference teams can actually win it if they don't?
Yeah, well, the Clippers. I mean, I think the Clippers are at the top of that list. And again, we're just calling them for what we saw last year. So I like the Clippers a lot. And frankly, look, I know the Suns are a young team, but what Chris Paul has done this year has been absolutely phenomenal. And what do you need in playoff basketball, right? Like, you need somebody that can come out there and essentially be your point, that knows what he's doing and where he's been. So I think that, we're sleeping on Phoenix as being the other team. Like, to me, the Clippers and Phoenix are 1-2 in the West if the Lakers aren't healthy. If AD and LeBron are healthy, though, at the end of the day, their 2 is better than everybody else's 5. And that's the gross part of this. Like, they didn't build for depth and they don't care. They didn't build a proper basketball team and they don't care. They got the 2 best players that they could out of 5. And said, you know what, our 2 will beat your 5 every day. And so far, they've been right.
Weren't you hoping for a Wizards Nets so you could see Westbrook Durant for probably 4?
All day, every day, and 7 times on Sunday. Like, I want that all day. Like, that's what we want, is the drama. By the way, though, that does speak to something. What you just mentioned, we spent so much of the last few years talking constantly about where teams are going and what the offseason is going to be like and what players not going to sign where. This year has actually given us interesting things on the court and interesting drama on the court that we can talk about with the games for once. Like, I think this has been a big win for the NBA this year.
ESPN radio host Jason Fitz, Spain and Fitz. Now, I was listening to you guys, I think it was Friday of last week, and maybe it was 2 weeks ago, you were doing like a draft of teams that you like didn't care about getting rid of. One was like the White Sox, one was the Cardinals, and then one of the reasons was about like the fans at the Cardinals, or one of the games was like mean to you or something, or like rude at the
Orioles.
Orioles
I got
game.
told to sit down at a Baltimore game because I was cheering too
Orioles.
loud. Yeah, so they're off my list.
It was the Orioles. And then last night I'm watching the Phillies game, and twice in the same inning, a Yahoo runs on the field. And I'm thinking, I just kept thinking, and Sarah took a little shot at the Phillies and at the Philadelphia, and everybody plays along. But then I said, man, I'm wondering if Fitz saw the 2 guys run on the field last night at the Phillies game twice in the same inning.
Yeah, well, look, we're going through a Major League Baseball bachelor process. Sarah wants me to become a big-time fan of one team, so I'm going through a selection process. Somebody's going to get the final rose. But the Phillies are still in this thing. Like I'm not saying that like the mascot alone is going to keep Philly in this thing for a long time.
Let me tell you,
transparent. Like if the ballpark food is good, the mascot's good, and the unis look good, like you're going to make my list. So
great food.
They've got a lot going for them.
Great food. And by the way, you know how many marriages happened because of Ashburn Alley back there? Like 2008, 9, 10, 11. Man, there's a ton of families that were created from Ashburn Alley. Keep that in mind when you put that together. And by the way,
plus proximity, proximity matters too. Like I intend with my final cities to get ESPN to, pay to send me there so I can party for a weekend. Like Philly, I want to go party in Philly. Let's go.
Oh yeah, and then of course we're Atlantic City. We're only 45 minutes away. I mean, this is you got to keep that all in mind. When's the new Bachelorette start?
You know what? Don't tell Sarah this. I've never watched The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. I'm still not 100% sure which one gives where the guy wins or the girl wins. I don't know. And I even hosted a show with Jordan Rogers, when I first got to ESPN. And I was like, so, dude, you were on one of those shows, and I'm sorry, I don't know which one it was. And he's like, that's okay. I don't listen to country music, so we're batting 1,000 because I've never heard any of your trash music. So there we go, and we've been friends ever since.
At Jason Fitz, he is of course the co-host of Spain and Fitz. You can hear right here on 97.3 ESPN. Jay Fitz here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. All right, man, good to see you.
Have a great